Welcome to the Entrusted Podcast. Have you ever wondered what it takes for organizations to not just survive, but truly thrive? It requires strong leadership at all levels, and today's guest embodies that spirit, Jason Heisler. Jason has crafted a life that beautifully blends creativity, service, and a deep appreciation for education. Growing up in an educational environment with his mother as a teacher, he developed a passion for learning and community involvement that fuels his work today. With a background in dance, Jason has performed around the world, from cruise ships to the Las Vegas Strip and even Disneyland in Japan. His dedication to service shines through in his roles within Westminster Public Schools, where he started as a school secretary, creating a welcoming environment for students and families. And he then moved to the district's procurement team and now serves as the executive assistant to the superintendent and executive team, tirelessly supporting the community. Family support is crucial in Jason's journey, and his partner Thaddeus plays a significant role in his life and work. So join us as we dive into Jason's inspiring story and explore the power of leadership in education. Well, welcome, Jason. Thank you for being with us. And I think for the viewers who are listening or watching today, they're going to find your story really inspiring. You know, people come at leadership from all different angles. I did myself. I didn't start out planning to be a leader, planning to be a principal or a superintendent or anything like that. Life happened after I first entered the workforce. So let's talk about that a little bit, because you got this huge background in the arts and dance, and talk about your studies with that and where that took you. And then we'll talk about how that led into what you do now.
Yeah, that sounds great. I've had many different careers in my lifetime, and been studying dance since I was 4 years old. So it just kind of led me into a professional career in dance. And, I think what I learned from dance just permeates the rest of my life. It taught me to be disciplined. It taught me to take criticism well. I learned how to work with others easily and work with teams of people that were all different personalities. And, I think what I learned in dance kind of carried with me as I stepped out of dance and stepped into my other careers.
Yeah. And where did you study? Because you grew up in Greeley, Colorado, right?
Greeley, yes. So studied in Greeley. I went to UNC as a dance major in college.
University of Northern Colorado, right?
Exactly, yes. And got experience at dancing in Alaska when I was a child. I went and traveled there and performed there with a dance company. Had lots of different opportunities to dance with people from all over the world, whether it was modern dance or tap dance or, show dance. So it's a lot of different experiences, and kind of made me who I am today.
That's great. And I know a lot of your network, you know a lot of people in the arts and that sort of thing too. So
it's a small world.
It is a small world when you get down to it, not just in the arts, but certainly in education as well.
Yes.
I think we've learned that through the years. And just knowing your work, I think when you mentioned discipline, I think your work always has a certain polish to it.
Thank you.
So talk about what that means to you in terms of your pride in your work.
I think we've talked a little bit about this in the past with our performing backgrounds is, I kind of see my work as a performance. So I turn on, my performance throughout the day. So no matter what's going on in my head, no matter what hundreds of lists that are going on of the things I need to accomplish, I just kind of put my mind at ease and smile and step in and try to make it look as easy as possible. But I'm also a little bit of a perfectionist. So
just a little bit.
So I want to, give a good product, and I want to, by me giving a good product, in turn, I'm making the people that I work with, I think, look good.
Yeah, and your organization, right? Yeah, the organization as a whole. So the title of today's episode is about leadership at all levels, and we've talked a lot about that, through the years. And your career, once you decided you were going to go into education, has had some interesting twists and turns. And I know, and maybe you could just talk for a minute about the influence your mom had on you with education.
Yeah, I grew up, my mom was a teacher. When I was born, she was in special education and then became an elementary school teacher and taught every grade level in the elementary school. I lived in a school most of my childhood. So just being around that gave me such respect for education and how important it was in people's lives, and how important it was to our children and our community to raise educated children.
And I know you and Thaddeus are both real community people.
Yes.
And you believe in your community. Was that the purpose that drove you into education, do you think?
We moved into Westminster after our travels. We moved back to Westminster because Thaddeus is actually him and his
hometown
family are from Westminster, right. Colorado. Right. So we moved back to Westminster, and we live a short distance, maybe 5 minutes away from the district office, and just felt so natural to step back into where I see our school is the center of our community. Mm-hmm. And it was just wonderful to be able to step in and feel that sense of community, not just with the people I work with, but also with our families. To be able to talk to our families with respect and look them in the eye and say, I'm your neighbor. Yeah. And I feel the same way, or this is how I can help you. And I think that helped me build trust with everybody. So
yeah, and a lot of wisdom. You bring that to the table too. I've noticed that over time as well. Leadership is not a title. We talk about that a lot. And even though this podcast is about educational leadership, I feel like leadership it crosses so many industries and all industries actually, yes. And all boundaries. So community leader, I know you and Thaddeus are in that realm.
Yes.
You're family leaders, big extended family.
Yes.
And when you went into education, you were first a principal's secretary. Mm-hmm. And I know the things you did for that school and for that community. When did you know you were just destined to be a leader?
I think that being in the leadership position of the secretary, you're the building. You're kind of leading the building. You're in charge of your teachers. You're in charge of
you're the face.
You're the face of the school. Yep. You're in charge of the kids and the parents. But most importantly, you're the right hand man to your principal. And so I saw that as such a leadership position. And I saw it was my job to make sure that we had a welcoming environment, that we took care of the kids and took care of the parents' concerns as needed. But I thought it was interesting being in the environment because I worked with people on every walk of life in that school that showed leadership. So whether it was our lunch staff that worked tirelessly and gave so much energy to make sure that our kids had what they needed, yeah. Or our custodian that made sure our building was taken care of. I went through that and realized there's people from all different levels of the education realm that took leadership to the next level.
Yeah, well, I honestly believe, and I've said this in a lot of places, mm-hmm. that bus drivers are often the first teachers of the day.
Yes.
Right? And when I worked, and had nutritional staff in our organization, mm-hmm. I mean, my grandmother was one of those lunch ladies. Right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I love to cook.
Yes.
So it comes from somewhere.
Exactly.
And And it certainly comes from my father and my grandmother and, and my mom's side of the family too. But in fact, that I'm a Southern woman, that just goes with territory.
Yes, it does.
But I think that leaders in education are in many shapes and sizes.
Mm-hmm.
And those lunch ladies, they can teach vocabulary.
Yes.
I mean, I learned that early on.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were going down a big initiative at one point, I remember in the district, talking to the support staff about that. And, I had a support cabinet, when I was superintendent, and we worked together. And I know the district still has that.
Yes.
What do you think the importance of elevating people who aren't normally seen as the leader of the school
Mm-hmm.
or the district? What do you think the importance of that is?
Well,
for
I think
people?
there's so many people in those positions that don't necessarily see themselves as leaders until someone like yourself gives them that opportunity to see themselves as leaders in the district. So whether they're the community liaison and they're leading the community liaisons, they start to see themselves as not just that position, but a leader in our district. So you're walking the walk and you're doing everything you can to make sure that Westminster Public Schools gives a good product.
Yeah. I think that's a lesson for any district, no matter where people are working who might be listening or watching, is that the folks who are in different job categories, there are leaders in all of those areas.
Yes.
I mean, I believe that. I think
so.
some are just natural leaders. There's this innate sense of, I see something that needs to be done, and I'm just going to step up and do it.
Yes.
Right? Can you think of any of those people in the organization where you lead right now?
We had Joseph Pittman, who is a custodian. He's a custodian supervisor, and he was on our superintendent support cabinet. And that man gives so much energy in his job, and he takes so much pride in what he does. And I just have so much respect for somebody that doesn't see the need to have a title or doesn't see the need to shoot for the stars and be the top of the ladder,
the food chain, right?
But to still take on that responsibility like that, their job is just as important as everybody else's in the district.
Yeah.
I gained a lot of respect for people working with everybody in the district that has that kind of mentality.
So everyone should have a purpose and know that their job matters.
Very much
in
so.
the lives of those children. See, I think my own personal view of leadership at all levels is no one should look at their job as a school secretary or as a superintendent or as a lunch lady.
Yes.
If you want to go down that, or a bus driver. We're all educators.
Yes.
And we're all developing young people.
Yes.
And that's the real purpose behind the job.
And I learned so much sitting next to you in these meetings because you did kind of drill it into my head. Even though I saw myself as a leader anyways, you really made sure that I saw myself as an educator, and my importance in those meetings was just as important as anybody else. And my importance, it was important for me to understand what was going on and fully comprehend and wrap my brain around everything that we were talking about. I wasn't just checked out. You really engaged me and made sure that I was there and I was present, and other people honored me for my work. And I appreciated that.
Well, you're very kind, but you're a talent.
Thank you.
So talk to me a minute about behind the scenes. What do you do in your current role behind the scenes as a leader? Because there's always the face, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've got communications people, and you've got the superintendent, and you've got Board of Education,
Yes.
got all of this. But how do you know you're doing a good job as a leader behind the scenes? Just talk about that.
So I had a conversation with our superintendent a little while ago, and let her know that how I see my position is, if I've done a good job, she's going to succeed at her job. She's going to have the time she needs to focus on the important things that she's doing. And in turn, she's going to step in front of those cameras or step in front of those parents or in front of those staff members and be wonderful at what she does if I've done my job behind the scenes. So whether it's handling the finances or it's handling, planning an event that's going on, or it's making sure that she's in the right place at the right time to talk to some of our new teachers. If I've dropped the ball, if she doesn't succeed, I've dropped the ball. So that's how I see my position.
So talk a little bit about, so basically, in other words, if I could just circle back, you see her success as your success.
Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah, right. So talk about big ideas that you think you've learned in all these leadership roles.
Well, there's two that I would say kind of come to mind. One is, we talked a little bit about this in our leadership meetings, but basically talking about how everybody's at a different stage in learning their positions.
Mm-hmm.
And just because you're the superintendent or you're the secretary to the principal or you're the supervisor for the custodian, you're at different levels of learning your position. And so you don't know what you don't know when you start a position.
It's true.
So I
call that the idiot phase. I think we're all in it for like 6 months in that job.
Yes.
When you take a new position, doesn't matter how many other positions you've had, is that phase.
You can be a very capable person and you're going to step in and you're going to take some time needing to learn the position and the needs of it. I find that very interesting, and I found it easier to work with people as they stepped into new positions around me, or whether they've been in a position for a really long time. It helps me to understand a little bit more about where we all are in our positions. But I would say the other thing that we started focusing on recently is generations. I find it very interesting with the generations of folks that we work with in the work
or just on our campuses in general.
For sure.
Right.
Even going down to the students. I think that, where my focus might be in learning or respecting our leadership or, just kind of straightening up and, just figure out the job and just, get down to work, depending on what generation you're from.
The characteristics are different.
Yes.
Not to overgeneralize, but, Tim Elmore is a great author, and he wrote about the diversity, the new diversity, right? And it really is built on the premise of, for the first time ever, we have 6 generations of people on our campuses in K-12 education, 6 generations of people. So if you look at the students now, they're alphas, right? I think that's what we're calling them.
Yeah.
But, you've got Gen Z now into the workforce. You've certainly got millennials. There's Xers and boomers and all of that. I mean, I grew up, I was the youngest, and my parents were from that veteran generation. And I know even in Denver, a woman by the name of Claire Rains has done a lot of research on this, generations at work. But it's interesting. These were the people I was raised by, who valued things like titles.
Yes.
And they showed respect for civic leaders and government. And I think about the times we're in now.
Yes.
And how that has shifted just because of a lot of things. And I think we can point back to Generation X when, I was a latchkey kid. Both my parents worked, and I had the Nintendo at home, or not the Nintendo, the Atari. Let me just date myself here. We didn't have Nintendo then. And I remember the skepticism that started creeping into that generation. You had things like Watergate, and you had things where people, things were being chipped away at in terms of our trust in government agencies and things like that. And education is no stranger to that. So talk to me for a second about, how do you embrace public perceptions about what you do, but more than that, what our industry does? Because there are people always trying to throw grenades at public education or pull public education or private education, any of the education systems onto the battlefield, right?
Very much. I think when it comes to my role and my position in the superintendent's office and working with our executive team, the best way I have of fighting those ideas, those negative ideas of education, is to buckle down and do the work and to make sure that we are representing ourselves to the best of our ability.
Top of our game.
Yes. And to me, that's the best way of showing that we're here for the right reasons. We care about your kids. We want to make sure that your students grow up and step out of high school and can step into a career and be successful.
Yeah.
I think that we can do lots of things, but I think the most important thing is just doing the work and working together as a team to make sure we're executing that.
Yeah. It's interesting. Anybody can say anything about us as leaders. We have to carry a little more weight in what we say, right? And I can think of those times when people are just lobbing grenades at you. And then all of a sudden you say, there has to be one or two adults in the room, and I have to be one of those adults right now and not take it personally, even though a lot of times they aim it at you. And it feels very personal.
Very much.
I've always been of the opinion, and for anyone who's an aspiring leader or in a current leadership role can probably identify with this, that, anybody can say anything, but when they start to attack you personally, it's because they're really having a hard time finding something wrong with you professionally. And that's a tough one to get over, because all of us are human, but we have to have, skin of rhinoceros or something like that to be able to take the hits that you do sometimes in leadership, but all for the right reasons. How do you keep grounded? How do you stay grounded when things are coming at you like that from the outside, the external piece?
I think that something that I'm always trying to work on and improve in myself is to think before I speak, to try to be thoughtful about what comes out of my mouth and how I represent myself to the people around me, whether that's the way I dress or the way that I present myself at a function. I want to make sure that I'm presenting myself in a professional manner. So
again, pride in your work, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And who you represent and what you represent.
Exactly. Because I'm not just representing the superintendent or our district. I'm representing the students and the families and, our teachers that do all of this hard work every single day. So
that's right. Well, they're demanding jobs, but also fulfilling jobs. And talk to me about the joy in your work. What's the joy in your work?
I thought I was going to miss, as I stepped out of the schools, I thought I was going to miss being around the students. And I do miss that day to day, those little ones that come up and say, something silly to kind of get you out of your head.
Right.
I miss being around the kids, but by being able to do what I do on the back end of things, it's amazing to see what our district is accomplishing and the things that I'm a part of to, make our community even more successful, whether it's, opening up our new CTE school that's going to be open to not just our students, but our community to better everything.
Right. The career technical part for the workforce.
Amazing.
Right.
And just to be around that and to see what our kids have access to almost gives me chills.
We could have all used a little more of that, right?
Yes, very much. Yeah. It's exciting to be a part of some of these big steps that we're taking to make sure that our kids can stay in our community and be successful. But I just think that just seeing our kids performing and seeing we have a program that they call it the Turkey Bowl at our high school. And we the whole entire school and the district office go out and support. And so basically it's our football players take many of our kids in our special education program, and they play football out there together. And some of them are cheerleaders and some of them are playing football, and it's a mixed group and everyone's encouraged and the entire school is cheering them on. It's amazing to see that.
It's a culture of love.
It's not that I don't get to be around the students, and it's not that I don't get to see all the wonderful things that they do, because I know that I'm still a part of it by the work that I do.
Yeah, and you have a broader reach, and that's what happens. You step a little bit back, but you still get to see the fruits of the labor.
Yes,
I guess, for lack of a better term. So, just a couple more points to talk to you about. How do you think dance influences your life now? Do you still dance?
I don't dance like I used to. I dance for enjoyment.
Yeah.
But I'm still involved with, we have season tickets, and we go and watch the Broadway shows when they come in. We support our local community theater.
Yeah.
And I'm always there watching the theater shows and watching the performances that our school puts on.
So you're supporting in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Our school's mariachi band put on this wonderful performance at the beginning of the year where they included the orchestra and the band, and there were dancers, and it was so amazing. And it was exciting to see them invite the culture of our students in to that piece. So. Well,
I see you light up when you talk about dance and the arts, and I see you light up when you talk about the children.
Yes.
And the impact and the joy that brings. And I just want to thank you for being with us today. I think your story is very inspiring, and I know you do stay fit, and you try really hard that whole dancer's discipline of staying healthy.
Yes.
I've watched that in your life too. But
I try.
But this has been a pleasure. Do you have any advice that you'd like to throw out there for anybody who's maybe working in a job and they're maybe thinking, I don't know if I'm ready for leadership. I don't know if I am a leader or not. Do you have any thoughts for anybody who might be listening or watching?
I think that as you step into thinking of yourself as a leader, you can do it in any position. The way that you present yourself, the way that you hold yourself, the way that you welcome people into your office. I think that with this step into leadership comes additional stresses. And I think that it's important to ground yourself in your life and find that balance between your life and your work, and make sure that you still find joy in your work no matter what. And with that joy comes pride. So
it comes with pride. And for anybody watching or listening today, I want to thank you for joining us, because we're all issued a certain number of heartbeats. And I appreciate the fact that all of you, including Jason, has spent a few of those heartbeats with me today. So as I would say, as I ended a meeting with any of my leaders in the past, rock on with your bad selves.